Hundreds of years have passed since the first report sighting of Bigfoot. There's historic records of accounts of a beast like man, or animal that they call Bigfoot. Bigfoot has been on the lips of every single human throughout the beginning of time. This mythical creature, or god, or animal, is one of the most talked about topics in world history. There's been accounts of this extraordinary beast, or animal, or man, throughout the continent. Why is this mythical creature so admired by humans that they basically live their whole lives searching and looking for Bigfoot? Is it that this Bigfoot reminds them of themselves, or something powerful, or is it a dream that they had as a child that now encamps their minds? No one really knows why this creature is one of the most seeked out phenomenon today. All the human encounters has led us to believe there is some truth to this. Mankind has had thousands of sightings across the world that swear they have seen this creature. Or is it that man is trying to find something greater than himself? Some say the reason why Bigfoot is such a big topic because man wants to become more than he is. Some people even say a superhero. On an early evening in 1979, on a campground in the mountains, there's a report made to the police from a woman named Angela Suffet. Angela said she saw a beast-like man. She claims it was Bigfoot. The reason why this was such a shocking story was how everything began that day. Angela Suffet was from Tennessee. She said she lived there all her life. Her parents raised her to believe in the supernatural, but some say she was very superstitious. The day Angela encountered Bigfoot, it was about 6:30 in the evening, and it was a very windy and rainy day. Her father, who was elderly and single at that time since his wife passed away, needed medication from his diabetes. Angela also had a 4-year-old child who was scared looking through the window. Angela was divorced to her husband, Larry Chauvin. What's strange about this story is that her daughter kept pointing at the window for over several days. She really didn't take notice of her daughter. She thought to herself, well, it's a 4-year-old child. She's probably only playing. But she also started coloring this beast on paper. When she asked her daughter, "What are you drawing?" she said, "Mommy, it's Big Man." She really didn't understand what she meant by big man, but she noticed that she was scared at night as well. A little after 9 p.m., Angela was arriving back from the pharmacy. As she drove up to her driveway, she claimed to see something that looked like Bigfoot. She said it looked about 12 feet tall and weighed about 450 pounds. She stated that when he looked at her, he didn't look evil or upset. He looked like he was trying to protect my home. Then my daughter looked up at him and smiled. He shook his head. He smiled back and walked off. The craziest thing about all this is, why wasn't her daughter scared at him when he looked at her? Did she know he was not a threat? As we have spotted Bigfoot throughout the continent, and most of his interactions with this mystical man-beast have not been confrontational. Why has Bigfoot stayed in the shadows? Why has he hidden himself from us? That is the question. Some say there's just not one Bigfoot, but thousands across the world, and many of them in different colors and shapes. Some even say they're angelical beings from heaven, like fallen angels, and had sexual encounters with humans. But whatever they are, humans continue to hunt them because they want to find the truth. Who are or what is a Bigfoot? Millions of dollars have been spent in expeditions to search for this beast man. Some claim they've seen black, brown, and yellow. Or this might be a hoax, just to frighten man. Or is this a God man that came from heaven to help mankind? Lots of religious groups and Greek scholars believe that Bigfoot is part of human existence. Billions of dollars have been made on memorabilia of Bigfoot throughout the years. And let's not forget movies. What possesses humans to follow this creature to the end of time still puzzles scientists. Some still believe there's superstitious tales of fanatics throughout history, but nothing has ever compelled man as much as Bigfoot. Is he talking to us? Some say he is. We gotta take in consideration the beliefs of others. Why has this beast man not shown himself to everyone? Maybe he doesn't trust mankind. And how can you blame him? Man has always defiled himself. There was two brothers named Gerald and Luke. These two brothers had a ritual of every 2 or 3 years to go to the hills and hike and basically get away from everything and just relax. When out of nowhere they heard a loud noise. Both brothers ran out to see what it was, and it was a tall beast staring right at them. Now they know why it came into the campground, to stop a wolf from injuring both of them. So is Bigfoot some kind of savior or angel? We don't know. All we know, since that day, these good old boys now believe in Bigfoot. All we know that to this day we have hundreds and hundreds of incidents with this so-called Bigfoot. How could Bigfoot be a man or a monster man in this religious arena? When they saw Jesus Christ raised from the dead, there were 500 eyewitnesses, but there's been thousands of people who have seen this remarkable beast called Bigfoot. So we need to ask ourselves, how can Bigfoot be a myth? But whatever you believe in this so-called beast named Bigfoot, you have the right to. In this film Bigfoot, In Search of the Truth, we have documentation. In the morning of 1991, the Sheriff Patrol in North Carolina, they were doing their daily activity, making sure that everything was safe. When they hit a bump on the road and got a flat, Stephen Bungie and Maxie Weaver were the two rangers at that time. They swear they saw two black apes about a mile or two from the road. The first thing they thought was, well, these are probably some apes who escaped from some kind of circus, and they're possibly dangerous. They called in the incident and asked, was there any apes reported in that area? Dispatch notified them that there was no circus or apes in that area. So they decided to take a hike and get a closer look of what types of apes these were, which they now call them Bigfoot. These Bigfoots stood right in front of them. They reached for their guns, and these Bigfoots just looked at them and smiled at them, like saying, I'm not here to hurt you. They said it seemed kind of weird to them. They both said they sensed some kind of energy in them, that they were nice creatures. So this beastly man they call Bigfoot is one hell of an act to follow, as we all live in a civilization called Earth. We experience what we call a realm of abilities that only enhance us as humans, that as we face these facts today, we've seen that this beastly man called Bigfoot could be alive. And is he a god man that man says he is? Or is he just a make-believe story that we tell our children each day? Regardless of that, there was another incident in Mayhem, California. Two surfer buddies that have been friends for over 7 years were taking the waves. One of the surfer buddies said, hey, why don't we go out and shoot a film out in the hills? So they decided to put a group of actors to make some kind of horror film, which was a good way to start out in the film industry, since they could film an independent film with a low budget. When they went out to the location, they spotted some footprints of some big feet on the floor. They really didn't think anything of it. They just thought someone was just trying to play a prank on them. So they really didn't pay attention to it. Then when they started shooting the film, one of the cast members said they saw a shadow behind them that looked like a big ape. So one of the surfer buddies decided to check it out. When he got to the cave, there was no ape. So they said to everybody, someone here in the cast is playing tricks on us. So they had a meeting and they said, come on, we need to get serious here. We have a certain time limit and budget to finish this movie. Stop playing jokes. Yes, this was a low production, but it was all the money these surfers had. So they warned everyone to stop scaring each other. They all agreed, but no one came forward. So they started filming again and setting up lights for the night shots. So they made sure to put the lights on each corner of the set to get the key shots that they needed. They tried to configure out exactly where to shoot, but they didn't want any more hiccups. Also, they were kind of skeptical of who was doing these things on set. But they focused, and together, they were going to make this a great film. Then they started shooting, and out of nowhere, the lights came down, crashing. Now he was furious. He was saying, who the hell is doing this? So they called another meeting to figure out what they were going to do. They had to finish this film. Then out of nowhere, they heard a roar, like a beast. After hearing the roar, the two surfer buddies calmed everyone down and said, "You guys, this is a practical joke. Let's find out who's doing this." So the two surfer buddies went out, and out of nowhere, they saw Bigfoot. And they looked at each other and said, "Oh my God, he's real." Then Jan came running up, and she turned around, and she also saw Bigfoot. So Bigfoot looked at all of us like he was upset, and he shook his head, then waved his arms like, "Leave my territory." So we slowly all walked away. Then they all decided that we needed to move locations because this was Bigfoot's territory. Right after that incident, they all had a meeting and decided to call the camp rangers and tell them exactly what happened. Now, lots of people are skeptical, especially the police. Was there really a Bigfoot? Or was it something made up by some of these teenagers and surfer buddies? Well, that's something that we need to look into. As we continue to find out the truth about Bigfoot, why this so-called beast or man is the hidden secret of human history. As we continue to search and find out through all the tales and encounters of Bigfoot, we do have documented reports throughout the world on this so-called beast. And the so-called governments of the world do not push the envelope to find out the truth about Bigfoot. Through all the tales and encounters of Bigfoot, we need to ask ourselves, is it something they know and they don't want to disclose to the public? Or is it that mankind maybe has created this beast in their head? That is still the question that we ask ourselves daily. Is it a man? Or is it a beast? And is he real? Or is he a scientific experiment gone wrong? And as we continue to go into this, we find out there is all types of Bigfoots all around the world. There's been over 2,000 expeditions around the world searching through all the mountains and cravings that this Bigfoot might be hiding. So we do believe Bigfoot is real, because it would just be too hard to make up this hoax throughout all the continents, throughout the years around the world. Some scholars believe that Bigfoot is an ancestor. We know him as a caveman that has found a way to continue to exist throughout centuries, because people say that he resembles man in a beastly way, and that's why he's been able to survive in the wilderness, because his body temperature is different than man in the future. And maybe Bigfoot is a caveman. That's something we'll seek out for the truth. On an early night in 1989, during the winter season, lived a couple named Gerald and Sandy Blake. They owned a horse farm and had chicken and pigs.
It was about 2:30 a.m. in the morning when Joel and Sandy were woken up out of their sleep. Seems some chickens were making some loud noises in the barn. When Joel went to go check out what was making these chickens make these loud noises, he found 5 or 6 chickens dead, like something was chewing on them. So Joel thought maybe it was some kind of wild animal that got into the cages and chewed on these chickens. The only thing was that the cages were not ripped apart. It was like someone was able to just unhook the door latch and open the door and eat these chickens, then close the door like a human being would. That was so strange. Both he and his wife couldn't imagine who did this. Then Sandy thought maybe it's some neighbor who's trying to scare us or run us out of town. Joel, her husband, assured Sandy that he had no quarrels with anyone in town. He said, "No honey, we are friends with everyone, I don't have any enemies." So the next day came around and they heard the same thing that happened the day before, so he grabbed his shotgun and ran into the barn, and he said he saw a big giant shadow running out. It looked like a monster, he told his wife. He checked the cages and found more chickens dead like before, and the door was closed as well. Now Joel and Sandy got hint that there were people around town claiming they've seen Bigfoot in the woods and around the mountainside. But Joel and Sandy thought to themselves that was probably some crazy quack just making up stories. But then Joel thought to himself maybe this might be true and that was a Bigfoot he saw. So he decided he was going to catch him by hiding out in the barn till this beast would show up again for another snack. Hopefully try one more time to eat his chickens. So he waited for hours till 2 a.m. and once again this beast ran into the barn and grabbed his chickens. Joel heard the noises and grabbed his shotgun and ran towards the chicken's coop, and he saw this enormous beast. He was astonished how big he was and took his gun and pointed it straight at him, and then the beast just looked at him with these kind eyes and walked away. Joel couldn't believe what just happened. He told his wife and they both were in awe. They decided not to report the incident because they didn't want people around town thinking they were crazy. They finally reported their encounter with Bigfoot months later, when more of these incidents happened to other people in town. They contacted the local newspaper company in town and they told them their story of what they believe was a Bigfoot they saw. After that Joel and Sandy never saw this great beast again. But Joel said he will never forget how kind and sorry the creature was for eating his chickens. So it seems Bigfoot had to live on Earth killing to survive. I did leave out some portions of the story about this case. Why didn't Bigfoot ever come back and eat Joel's chickens? What could this beast been thinking about? Since that incident Joel and Sandy believe in Bigfoot and they kind of love that creature, and to them he's part man or something higher. Scientists have found remains of large beastly animals around the world, and some say they have found bones that resemble humans, just larger and bigger. Some believe that mankind will truly know the truth someday about Bigfoot, but right now man's nature would not understand this creation. Is it smarter and stronger than man? As we uncover the stories we just heard, it seems that he or she is. Why did Bigfoot visit Joel and Sandy, and why didn't he kill them? Many encounters throughout the centuries with Bigfoot have made man think more about the origin of this creature. But as we continue this journey and explore the truth, lies and hoax of Bigfoot, we have determined that he is a higher power than some random animal. The more we explore the human's DNA, comparing it to animals like chimps or gorillas, we see that we humans are not so different. This could be nature trying to tell us that something supernatural somehow has caused us to see the light of Bigfoot. As we continue to dig deep into all this, we open doors towards this incredible Beasley man that we all know as Bigfoot. Why have they written so many books about Bigfoot and we still have many doubts of his existence on Earth? Does he really exist, or is it that Bigfoot might even be an alien from another world that somehow hasn't been able to find his way back home? One thing we do know about Bigfoot is that he's able to live in cold and hot weather that man could not. We also have determined that most of all encounters that people have gone through with Bigfoot, he had the chance to kill them, but he didn't. Yes, there has been some accounts of accidents, but in most of them Bigfoot he was just trying to protect himself. We need to ponder and see for ourselves as we continue our investigation on Bigfoot. As we unfold the quest to find out more about Bigfoot, there are so many questions that have not been answered. Are we the first ones on Earth, or were there creatures suspiciously known as Bigfoot before humans? The one thing we do know about Bigfoot is that early religious scrolls have been found that prove that these giants that roamed the earth have been here for centuries, before there was any civilization of man. We also have scientific proof that there were dinosaurs on this planet, because we have found remains of them. Could they be ancestors of Bigfoot, left from that era, and now we know them as Bigfoot? How can something live for thousands of years without ever dying off? These are questions that we ask ourselves in this incredible journey in the search of the truth about Bigfoot. In 1985, Gerald G. Lewis was hiking in the mountains of Utah when he spotted what he says was a hairy man. He said he looked more like a man than a gorilla or a monkey. He thought he might just be someone living in the wilderness. So he really didn't pay too much attention to it. He also thought to himself, if I leave him alone, he'll leave me alone. Gerald G. Lewis once every couple years loved to go hiking and get away from everything. He thought it was a good way to put his mind at ease. But the night he encountered this beast of a man, he says it changed his life forever. This is one of the first sightings that we have a human that encounters a Bigfoot, and has a sworn testimony that this beast spoke to him. It seems that Gerald was a little drunk. The night he saw Bigfoot he was smoking by his tent, and he didn't pay attention when he threw his cigar to the floor. Seems Gerald accidentally started a wildfire, then out of nowhere, Bigfoot came running into his tent roaring like a wild beast. Then Gerald said he heard him speak, "Look what you've done." After hearing him say those words, Gerald just looked at him like he saw an alien from another planet speaking to him. Gerald said Bigfoot had facial features of a man and he seemed to be about 12 feet tall and weighed about 450 pounds. Gerald was a big man, he was about 6 feet tall and 7 inches. But Bigfoot was a lot bigger than him. All Gerald could say to this beast was, "I'm sorry." Bigfoot just shook his head and ran off. Some could say that Gerald was just drunk and that maybe he did not see Bigfoot, and he just thought he heard him speak. Some say Gerald lied about everything, but those who knew Gerald swear that Gerald is not a liar. No matter what you like to believe, this was an incredible story. Could this beast called Bigfoot really speak? And why did he care so much about the fire? Was he protecting something? No one really knows what Bigfoot was thinking, but all we know, it seemed like he did care about the land. Inside the pyramids that been here for thousands of years, we find drawings of Bigfoot inside the tombs of kings. It seems that at that time period, Bigfoot was treated like a living god because of his strength and power. What we do know, there's more to Bigfoot than man could ever imagine. Was Bigfoot an experiment gone wrong, or was he a king from another planet? Some believe he was an alien, but no one really knows the truth. All we do know is that Bigfoot is here, and that thousands of people across the continent have seen him. Some even say that Bigfoot origin was in Alaska, and there's parts of that area close down. Why is man not allowed to go into some of those areas, and why have governments of the world agreed to secure them from man? Is it that there is a lot more Bigfoot that we know about? Or is there a civilization where this beast exists? Intelligence agencies like the FBI have forbid the files to be opened about Bigfoot or allow the public access. Every year there's books written on Bigfoot and movies on this great and wonderful beast. Most people like ourselves believe that Bigfoot is not an enemy to man, but more of a friend. We all believe that Bigfoot would not try to hurt man if he could. In 1999, Gina Groven and her husband Tom Groven and his 2 kids Lisa and Nicholas, who are both about 11 and 12 years old, went out for a camping trip where once a year the whole family gathers. This was Tom Grove and his father's cabin. It's been in the family for over 60 years. It was given to his father as well. The family liked going there because it was a great place for fishing and getting away from everything. Their ritual was to go on the boat, go fishing, then go to the outdoors, get some marshmallows and burn them, and just tell some horror stories to see who scares who. This time around it was Nicholas' story to be told, so he thought he would do a practical joke on everyone, by making up some kind of wild and crazy story by putting fake footprints of Bigfoot on the ground. And making everyone think there might be a real living Bigfoot there. So when they walked towards the fire, he screamed, "Hey, that looks like Bigfoot footprints." They all looked kind of scared and in shock. I think they thought maybe this could be Bigfoot. Then Nicholas said, "This is great. I was going to tell a story about Bigfoot, and now we really see some Bigfoot footprints on the floor." So Nicholas started with his story talking about Bigfoot, how every year he came out and scared people in town around Halloween. They all heard a loud noise, and out of nowhere Bigfoot just walked up to them and sat down, and looked at the whole family smiling. His sister said, "Okay, great, you're so funny, Nicholas. So who is your friend in the costume?" And she went up to him and tried to pull his head off. Nicholas looked at her and said, "He's not my friend. I don't know who he is. I think he's really Bigfoot." Then Bigfoot roared and looked at them and smiled and ran into the woods. This was most incredible encounter in history told by a family. Could this Bigfoot understand what Nicholas' story was all about? Why did Bigfoot walk in and sit down with the family and smile? We do not know. This story seems a little far-fetched, but they swear they saw Bigfoot, and this is what happened to them that night. If we take a summary of all the events that have happened so far, and all the locations around the world that this Beasley man called Bigfoot has been seen by the population in those areas, we need to look more into why this great beast of a man is not on the radar of the world more. Is it that this beast or intelligent being has been able to manipulate us, or does he have some superpowers of hiding himself in the open and only comes out when he chooses to? As we see on TV and in the movies superheroes, we really need to start asking ourselves, could he be robotic, or an abomination that man has brought onto this earth? In 1991, Rosalind Grace, a photographer, was putting together a feature on wildlife and the existence of apes. It never crossed her mind that she might experience a Bigfoot encounter. Rosalind Grace was 26 years old at the time, and she had been working as a photographer for a prestigious national magazine. She thought the best way to get to know these gorillas was to camp close to them. As you can see, Rosalind didn't scare easy. She took daily pictures on these beasts. It was 6 a.m. on a Saturday when she looked up into the mountains and saw what she thought was a big gorilla. She thought, oh great, this will be a great picture on the mountain. To get some close-ups of the gorilla in the wildlife. So she started climbing the mountain towards the top, not knowing what she would expect. As she was climbing up, she almost slipped, because the terrain was loose, but thank God she was able to hold on. She questioned herself if she should continue to climb because the beast was all the way on the top of the mountain. Rosalind was kind of a tomboy. She did not scare easy. In her mind, she was going to get her pictures no matter what she had to do. When she got to the top of the mountain, she saw a cave. She knew this could be dangerous, but she's been around these gorillas for a while now, so she thought, if play my cards right, I shouldn't be in too much danger. When she started walking into the cave, someone started throwing rocks at her from inside the cave. Maybe someone is trying to scare me, she thought to herself. She couldn't understand who that could be because gorillas would never do something like that. That had to be a human, she thought. Maybe there's someone trying to get the pictures before I do, she thought to herself. Or just trying to scare me away. When she walked into the cave, she was so amazed to see a fork, knife, spoon and a cup. It was like someone was camping in the cave. Then out of nowhere she saw a very tall shadow getting closer to her. She got out her camera and waited to take a picture of the gorilla. Then out of nowhere walked in what we know as Bigfoot. He looked at her like, why are you here? Did I give you permission to come inside my home? She took the picture and it was incredible, she said. He looked at her and pointed with his finger, leave my home now. She never expected to see a Bigfoot, but from that day on, Rosalind, known as other names in her books she publishes, talks about her encounter of Bigfoot, but she never gives us an exact location of where she saw this Bigfoot. Like she's trying to protect him. Why has this beast been so loved by mankind? Is it that in some way we know deep down inside us that it is human, or just something different than what we are, but still deserves to live? discover more on this missing link, we continue to search for the truth of Bigfoot. Our goal is to look into every open file that's presented to us to bring you hard evidence of the existence of Bigfoot. What is a Bigfoot? A Bigfoot, also commonly referred to as Sasquatch, is a purported ape-like creature said to inhabit the forests of North America. Prominent subject within Canadian and American folklore, supposed evidence of the existence of Bigfoot includes a number of anecdotal visual sightings as well as disputed video and audio recordings, photographs, and casts of large footprints. Some of these are speculated or known to be hoaxes. Bigfoot has become an icon within the fringe subculture of cryptozoology and an enduring element of popular culture. Folklorists trace the phenomenon of Bigfoot to a combination of factors and sources including the cultures of indigenous people across the continent, the European wildman figure, and folk belief among loggers, miners, trappers, and prospectors. Wishful thinking, a cultural increase in environmental concerns, and overall societal awareness of the subject have been cited as additional factors. The majority of mainstream scientists have historically discounted the existence of Bigfoot, considering it to be the result of a combination of folklore, misidentification, and hoax, rather than a living animal. Thousands of people have claimed to have seen a Bigfoot, which is most often described as a large, muscular, bipedal ape-like creature, roughly 1.8 to 2.7 meters 6 to 9 feet. And covered in black, dark brown, or dark reddish hair. Some descriptions have the creatures standing as tall as 3.0 to 4.6 meters 10 to 15 feet. A pungent, foul-smelling odor is sometimes associated with reports of the creatures, commonly described as similar to rotten eggs or skull. The face of a Bigfoot is often described as human-like, with a flat nose and visible lips. Common descriptions also include broad shoulders, no visible neck, and long arms. The eyes are commonly described as dark in color and have been alleged to glow yellow or red at night. However, eyeshine is not present in humans or any known great ape, and so proposed explanations for observable eyeshine in the forest include perched owls, raccoons, or opossums. The enormous footprints for which the creature is named are claimed to be as large as 610 mm 24 inches long and 200 mm 8 inches wide. Some footprint casts have also contained claw marks, making it likely that they came from known animals such as bears, which have 5 toes and claws. About 1/3 of all claims of Bigfoot sightings are located in the Pacific Northwest, with the remaining reports spread throughout the rest of North America. Most reports are considered mistakes or hoaxes, even by those researchers who claim Bigfoot exists. Sightings predominantly occur in the northwestern region of Washington, Oregon, Northern California, and British Columbia. Other prominent areas of supposed sightings include the rural areas of the Great Lakes region, and the southeastern United States. According to data collected from the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization's Bigfoot Sightings database in 2019, Washington has over 2,000 reported sightings, California over 1,600, Pennsylvania over 1,300, New York and Oregon over 1,000, and Texas has just over 800. The debate over the legitimacy of Bigfoot sightings reached a peak in the 1970s, and Bigfoot has been regarded as the first widely popularized example of pseudoscience in American culture. A 1895 article describing a giant grizzly bear named Bigfoot. In the 1830s, a Wyandot chief was nicknamed Bigfoot due to his significant size, strength and large feet. Potawatomi Chief Maumpsuck, known as Chief Bigfoot, is today synonymous with the area of Walworth County, Wisconsin, and has a state park and school named for him. William A. Wallace, a famous 19th century Texas Ranger, was nicknamed Bigfoot due to his large feet and today has a town named for him, Bigfoot, Texas. Lakota leader Spotted Elk was also called Chief Bigfoot. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, at least 2 enormous marauding grizzly bears were widely noted in the press and each nicknamed Bigfoot. The first grizzly bear called Bigfoot was reportedly killed near Fresno, California, in 1895 after killing sheep for 15 years. His weight was estimated at 2,000 pounds, 900 kilograms. The second one was active in Idaho in the 1890s and 1900s between the Snake and Salmon rivers, and supernatural powers were attributed to it. The concept of what Bigfoot would consume for sustenance is a debated issue. Most mainstream scientists maintain that it is unlikely that a breeding population would be able to sustain themselves in North American forests, as great apes historically thrive only in the tropics of Africa and Asia. In addition, they would face competition with bears and other large predators and would be leaving behind feces and other identifiable evidence. Others argue that, like bears, the creatures likely have an omnivorous diet and are opportunistic, much like humans. Anecdotal accounts indicate that the creatures consume roots, berries, nuts, fruit, fungi, salmon and other fish, small mammals like rabbit and squirrel, birds, and hooved ungulates including deer and elk. There have also been alleged reports of Bigfoots consuming carrion, and killing or stealing livestock. In 2016, Centralia College anthropology professor and Bigfoot enthusiast Mitchell Townsend presented forensic research at the 69th Annual Anthropology Research Conference that he and his team completed after studying 3 different prey bones recovered near Mount Street, Helens. They claim that the bite marks found on the bones provide evidence of a large, unknown hominid having made them based on their characteristics. Alleged interactions with humans have been reported. Many indigenous American cultures traditionally fear and respect these creatures. An incident in 1924, often referred to as the Battle of Ape Canyon, tells of miners being attacked by large, hairy ape men that hurled rocks onto their cabin roof from a nearby cliff after one of the miners allegedly shot one with a rifle. A miner was supposedly knocked unconscious by a rock which crashed through the roof, and the creatures slammed into the cabin walls, causing the entire structure to shake. Canadian prospector Albert Ostman reported that he was abducted by a Bigfoot and held captive with its family for 6 days near Toba Inlet, British Columbia in 1924. He reported that they did not cause him harm, but were instead amused by his presence. In Fouke, Arkansas in 1971, a family reported that a large, hair-covered creature startled a woman after reaching through a window. This alleged incident caused panic in the area. According to the BFRO, there have been no credible modern reports of any humans being killed by a Bigfoot, but harassment and stalking-like behaviors toward people have been reported. In some documentary films they describe marijuana farmers telling stories of Bigfoots harassing and killing people within the Emerald Triangle region in the 1970s through the 1990s, and specifically the alleged murder of 3 migrant workers in 1993. Investigative journalist attributes the stories to illegal drug operations using the local Bigfoot law to scare away competition, specifically superstitious immigrants, and that the high rate of murder and missing persons in the area is attributed to human actions. There have also been reports of dogs allegedly being killed by a Bigfoot. the early 1990s, 911 audio recordings were made public in which a homeowner in Kitsap County, Washington called law enforcement for assistance with a large subject, described by him as being all in black, having entered his backyard. He previously reported to law enforcement that his dog was killed recently when it was thrown over his fence. Anthropologist notes that any large predatory animal is potentially dangerous to humans, specifically if provoked, but indicates that most anecdotal accounts of Bigfoot encounters result in the creatures hiding or fleeing from people. Some amateur researchers have reported the creatures moving or taking possession of intentional gifts left by humans such as food and jewelry, and leaving items in their place such as rocks and twigs. Skeptics argue that many of these alleged human interactions are easily hoaxed, the result of misidentification, or are outright fabrications. Humans have been mistaken for Bigfoot, with some incidents leading to injuries. In 2013, a 21-year-old man in Oklahoma was arrested after he told law enforcement he accidentally shot his friend in the back while their group was allegedly hunting for Bigfoot. In 2017, a shamanist wearing clothing made of animal furs was vacationing in a North Carolina forest when local reports of alleged Bigfoot sightings flooded in. The Greenville Police Department issued a public notice not to shoot Bigfoot in fear of someone in a fursuit mistakenly being injured or killed. In 2018, a person was shot at multiple times by a hunter near Helena, Montana who claimed he mistook him for a Bigfoot. Additionally, some have attributed feral humans or hermits living in the wilderness as being another explanation for alleged Bigfoot sightings. One famous story, The Wild Man of the Navidad, tells of a wild ape man who roamed the wilderness of eastern Texas in the mid-19th century, stealing food and goods from local residents. During the 1980s, a number of psychologically damaged American Vietnam veterans were discovered living in remote forests across North America, living off the land and wearing animal hides as clothing. As of 2020, many survivalist veterans and others continue to call the forests of the Pacific Northwest home. After what the Huffington Post described as a 5-year study of purported Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch, DNA samples, but prior to peer review of the work, DNA Diagnostics, a veterinary laboratory headed by veterinarian Melba Ketchum, issued a press release on November 24, 2012, claiming that they had found proof that the Sasquatch is a human relative that arose approximately 15,000 years ago, as a hybrid cross of modern Homo sapiens with an unknown primate species. Ketchum called for this to be recognized officially, saying that government at all levels must recognize them as an indigenous people and immediately protect their human and constitutional rights against those who would see in their physical and cultural differences a license to hunt, trap, or kill. Failing to find a scientific journal that would publish their results, Ketchum announced on February 13, 2013, that their research had been published in the De Novo Journal of Science. The Huffington Post discovered that the journal's domain had been registered anonymously only 9 days before the announcement. This was the only edition of De Novo and was listed as Volume 1, Issue 1, with its only content being the Ketchum paper. Shortly after publication, the paper was analyzed and outlined by Sharon Hill of Doubtful News for the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry. Hill reported on the questionable journal, mismanaged DNA testing and poor quality paper, stating that the few experienced geneticists who viewed the paper reported a dismal opinion of it, noting it made little sense. The Scientist magazine also analyzed the paper, reporting that geneticists who have seen the paper are not impressed. To state the obvious, no data or analyses are presented that in any way support the claim that their samples come from a new primate or human-primate hybrid, Leonid Kruglayek of Princeton University told the Houston Chronicle. Instead, analyses either come back as 100% human, or fail in ways that suggest technical artifacts. The website for the De Novo Journal of Science was set up, on February 4th, and there is no indication that Ketchum's work, the only study it has published, was peer-reviewed. In the 1970s, when Bigfoot experts were frequently given high-profile media coverage, writers and the scientific community generally avoided lending credence to the theories by debating them. The discovery of an unknown great ape or hominid species calling North America home would have a drastic societal impact. Paleontologist and author, it is, after all, great fun to wonder what the existence of Bigfoot would mean for field biology and ecology in North America, for conservation and wildlife management, for our understanding of primate evolution and diversity, and for the relationship we have with the rest of the natural world. So as we gather all this information and try to understand a lot more about Bigfoot, we see that there is great evidence that this beast exists as well as it could be a hoax. Did people really see a Bigfoot? That answer can only be answered by what you believe or not believe. That is the greatest question we have about Bigfoot as we searched for the truth. Is Bigfoot real or just a myth?